such good boys. They unload anywhere and have a stretch and a pick and a wee. This is at Geehi on our way down to the Snowy Mountains. In this video, we're camping for the weekend at Geehi, specifically on Behrs Flat on the Swampy Plains River. It's on the north side of the Murray River down in the high country, so just on the New South Wales side. We were headed down on the Friday. We left not particularly early on Friday morning and we arrived about 2 o'clock. It was a pretty warm trip. The horses hopped off, as you saw before, there at Geehi and had a stretch, which is a pretty regular spot for them to do that, and they're always good. This is the Alpine Way that we're driving in on now. We went in through Tumbarumba and Cancoban. I've not towed the float in this way before. When we stayed at Tomgrogan, we towed in through Jindabyne, and it was quite the trip for the car. And so this time, well, actually last summer when Rich and I were just camping, we drove in this way and I thought it'll be okay in the float, and it was. We just took it nice and steady, and yeah, no cars. It was very quiet on the road. It wasn't until we were only a couple of k's from Geehi that any cars came up behind us. So this is coming into Behrs Flat. We turned off the road probably a k or two before that. If you go straight ahead there, it takes you across the valley up to one of the many huts, and the fire trail continues on through there. We rode some of that. We stopped and got the horses off when we got there on Friday at about 2 o'clock.
No.
It was pretty warm by then, so we just unloaded as soon as we could, and then we rearranged before we set up camp. It was right on the Swampy Plains River, so it was nice and close to carry water for the horses, and it was also quite a pleasant place to be camped. This is where we were camped. The pink line is pretty much our Saturday ride. This is Friday afternoon. That white dot over there on the left is our float. That's where we were camped. We headed off. We followed the river along. We went past Keeble's hut, which is back behind us where we are now. And then we headed off up the trail a bit further. This trail actually goes all the way through to Major Crew's hut, and then it continues on out towards Cancoban. But we obviously were base camping, so unfortunately we just had to ride out and ride back. But yeah, this is the Friday afternoon. We just had a bit of a leg stretch. Reese, as you can see, had his march on, and he's a lot fitter than I gave him credit for, because I was expecting the march to die off a bit over the weekend, but it did not. He was still marching on Sunday morning when we were ready to come home. Saturday morning sunrise was quite pleasant. Friday night had not been so pleasant. The horses were very unsettled, and they're very experienced campers. They're used to camping at events, they're used to camping in the mountains, and it's never been a drama. But they were very unsettled, and I tied them up for a few hours during the night because I was very concerned that they were going to knock a fence down and disappear. And I worked out on Saturday morning when I got up, after not very much sleep on my part, that it was deer. There was deer in the clearing in the valley.
Oh, definitely.
And they've never seen deer before in their life.
Yeah.
And it was very unsettling for them. Thankfully, Saturday night they were a whole lot better. This is our Saturday morning ride, or Saturday ride. We did about 20 k's on the Saturday. That marker that you saw just there at the start, that's for the National Trail marker. You see them dotted along the trail at most of the intersections. The views on this section aren't quite as spectacular as last year's ride up at Craig's Hut up at the top of the mountains, but although it's not quite the same panoramic views, it was still very nice going through the bush, and the terrain changed a lot the scenery changed a lot. There was little bits like this where it was trees and bushy, and then we went through some open areas. We crossed a few creeks, and then later on it kind of got a bit more alpine, I guess you'd say, along the way. We passed the most enormous fallen tree. It was laying on its side. It was probably almost as tall as Lily on Bumper, which is very big. Not Lily, but Bumper. It was the biggest fallen tree. It was quite amazing. This is the Geehi horse yard camping area. There's yards down there. We just stopped in this instance on our way through. First up, there's a toilet there. There's a little hut. We just hopped off and had a bit of a stretch, and Reese had a bit of a scratch, as he loves to do.
You don't like the flies either, but so you can't have everything, brother.
Fly mask or a hood or something like that.
Might be bot fly was why type re him. Bumper stamped his foot, that it might have been after Reese after that.
Lovely though.
Yeah. They say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Ride 15 k's and they'll drink. And try and roll.
On our way back, we stopped at the Geehi horse yards again, and we unsaddled, and we took the horses down to the watering point, which is quite a hike down a very steep hill. By the time we all got back up the hill, we probably all needed another drink. But like all the creeks in the area, it's just lovely. But it's awesome, there's yards there that we could unsaddle the horses, and we sat down and we had our little packed lunch that we'd made to take with. And while we were there, some National Parks workers came to clean the toilets, and they came down to say good day and ask if we'd been riding the trail and if there was any hazards that we had to report or anything. And there was actually a tree down not too far from the drive into the Geehi Horseyard camp. It wasn't a very big tree, but it was a very branchy tree, and we had to do some four-wheel driving on the horses to get around it. And it's good that they come and ask that kind of stuff, and in return we commented to them about how clean the area was. All of the campsites I've ever been to down there, they're all super clean and tidy. The toilets are well maintained, there's no rubbish anywhere. You like to think that it's because people are responsible, but I'm sure that there's also a big part of it is how well maintained they are, and you know, they appreciate hearing that kind of thing. I appreciate that they came and asked if there was any hazards that we had to report. I think it, you know, works really well together. But yeah, so we had a lovely little camp. We sat down and shared our lunch with a few ants. And then we saddled up and off we went. We swapped horses after lunch too. Lily rode Reese and I rode Bumper. I had regrets. My saddle, Reese's saddle's much more comfortable. When we rode out on that dirt road just there. But on the way back, I wanted to ride in through the main Geehi camping area, which is just on the other side of the river. And so we needed to cross over the river on the road. I decided to trot across because although I'm not a great fan of trotting on bitumen and concrete, I felt that it was a better option to just get across the bridge. There was a fair amount of traffic popping up, and we were very lucky there was nothing came while we were crossing, but there was a fairly substantial amount of motorbikes touring along this road on a Saturday, and I'd rather not be in the middle of the bridge and have some come along. So we hot-footed it across the bridge and into the camping area.
It only says for takeoffs and landing on it.
Interesting. So you can launch it on the road and fly it in.
But like land it back on the road.
Well, I want to get off and lie in it. Go all the way in, get it cool on your feet, and then stop for a drink like Reese. Look, it's deeper over there if I come along here.
Yeah, come along this way.
Miss that big rock. Yeah. So it was only like half, 3/4 full. I thought I'll fill it up when we get back with cooler, fresher water. Probably enough for now, bud. Oh boy.
Seems quite reasonable.
Yeah.
On the Sunday morning before we left, we went for a nice little ride further west along the track, the same way we went on Friday afternoon. And headed towards Major Crew's hut again. We went, can't remember how far we went on the Sunday. I know on either the Friday or the Sunday we went as far as the old Geehi hut. There was a push bike rider camped there, and Reese found that quite terrifying. He had a tent and a bike, which Reese doesn't love bikes to start with. But yeah, and he didn't hear us. I don't know how he didn't hear big clodhoppers galumphing around. We're only walking, but still, we're not quiet. But anyway, we scared the bike rider as much as the bike rider in his tent scared Reese, which was quite funny. It was a very nice sunrise across the valley over there. I was trying to take some nice photos of the horses and the sunrise through the valley and the mountains there. That's Mount Kosciuszko that is in the centre of the frame there. And Reese did not want to have a bar of it at all. He was like, no, I'm not going to stand still. I'm not going to put my ears up. I'm just not going to do any of it.
Poke our head down to the doctor's hut down here. Poke our head down to the hut down here.
I don't think I said anywhere along the way that I actually got the horses shod for this trip, which Reese has never been shod before in his life, and Bumper was for a little bit a few years ago because he's quite a slippy horse. He's got enormous big flat feet and he does slip, but he also doesn't do very much nowadays, so the shoes were only on him for a little while. But yeah,
Getting yourself into a
got
pickle up
Reese
there.
shod all around and Bumper just shod in front because Bumper usually has excellent feet and Reese's are pretty good, although I often used to use front boots on him when we were riding out, but they're quite a pain, especially when we're riding in the mountains like this. I actually lost one of them last year and I never found it, and it was so much easier having shoes on them. You know, I'm not going to keep them on all the time. I've kept Reese's on again for another cycle. I'll probably keep them on until after Sydney and then I'll take them off. And also with how dry it was over summer, all their feet really dried out, and even Bumper, he was feeling it in his feet. He had some cracks and some chips and stuff. But yeah, it made life so much easier having them shod for this trip. You can see how much Reese is still just marching along on the Sunday morning after I don't know how many k's of riding already, and it's all quite rocky. Well, not all of it actually. These road type areas are quite rocky. When we were on the trail through the bush, it was nice and soft, but still, it made a world of difference. So that was mine and Lily's weekend camping at Geehi, at Behrs Flat on the Swampy Plains River, and riding the national trails some more.